Joan and Denis and John, grandchildren Christopher, and Christopher is a part of our parish as well, with doing the graves and doing it so excellently as well, always. Edward, Bridget, Eileen, great-grandchildren, Clodagh, Caoimhe, Croi and Maria, brother Denis, sister Mary, daughter-in-laws Joan, Majella and Jill, nephews, nieces and grandchildren, and an extended family members and great neighbours, and again from a part of the parish in Kilbaha, which again is noted for longevity in life, and again that Tom had that long life. Quite extraordinary as well, the reports coming in, unfortunately I did not know him, but the reports coming in that he was a generous man with the farming community, a generous man in working a hard day's work, and was always liked and loved, not only in Kilbaha and by the family, but by the parish generally as well. He's left a lovely legacy, and again we pray that while you're sad and vulnerable today, that you will Pandora box of wonderful memories to look back on a terrific and great life. And Jesus will say to Tom today, well done, good and faithful servant, because you handle life, trusting in me and using me as your sat-nav, come to be reunited with all who have gone before you, especially your loving wife Bridie, and all in your family and all in Bridie's family. We pray that they will all be united in Easter joy in God's kingdom.
On the 8th of January 1926 in Knocknacaragh, Island Kilmorna, he was the fifth of 8 children to Nora, better known as Noreen Fitzgerald, and Denis McCarthy. His older siblings were Jack, Hanny, Peggy, and Jimmy, and his younger siblings were Denis, Mary, and Noreen. The family were very affectionately known as the Nonies after their mother Nora, and their house was referred to at the top of the road. Being born to humble parents in 1926 and survived to the age of 95 in 2021, guaranteed that Tom saw some very hard times and some great times. He has gone for his home for about 3 years now because of his declining health and moving to the nursing home. So we'd like to take this small opportunity today to remind you people of Tom McCarthy. Tom McCarthy attended Island National School until the age of 14, where he walked barefoot morning and evening a distance of 2 to 3 kilometres, I'm not quite so sure. Schools could often be a harsh environment at that time, but he never dwelt much on it. When he got his confirmation on the 13th of May 1940, he said farewell to formal education and left school with a good literacy level. He began working at the age of 14 with a Kingsland farmer by the name of Barton. He milked 7 cows morning and evening and went to the creamery by Assencar. That time, a farm labourer worked 9 months of the year, from the 1st of February to the 1st of November, and he earned £1 a month. Tom remembered this very clearly, as he told us it would buy 23 pints for him in those days. He remembered buying his first suit of clothes, as he called it, and it took 2.5 months to pay for it. At this time, he was also helping in the building of his parents' new house. At 16, he went to work at Tim Brosnan's farm for 3 years. That was a neighbouring large farmer, at whose house his brother Jimmy and sister Peggy also worked. He remained living at home with his parents and always contributed to the running of the house. On the 2 or 3 months he would be laid off each year, he would walk or cycle to Moyvane barrack to sign for the dole. The Moyvane barrack covered the Dubois area at that time. When on the dole for those 2 or 3 months, a man would be called by the council to come out and work, so Tom often worked on the roads of Moyvane and Dubois. When he left Tim Brosnan's at the age of 19, he went to work on Flynn's farm for 2 years. Again, the work consisted of cows, turf, general farm and labour, and minding the children. An elderly pensioner by the name of Kate Lane had come to mind the Flynn children as their mother had passed away, and Tom would carry her in the pony and trap once a fortnight to get her pension in Abbeyfield. Of course, it was not all work and no play. Tom remembered walking to Abbeyfield 2 or 3 nights a week to the dances or to the bar, as he would like to drink, most often with his beloved sister Peg, sometimes Jimmy, and with some of the neighbours, mainly the Meehans, the Stacks, and as he would say himself, and all the crowd around. In 1945, at the age of 19, he bought a pony. This was the first pony that came to the top of the road. And as most of you might know, that on the first Thursday in October, the fare was always in this stole, and he bought an unbroken colt for £12. He wanted it for what he described as the handy jobs, and bringing home a handful of turf. The family at home were selling turf at that time and trading a bit of bogdeal. It was 14 shillings for a pony rail of bogdeal and 17 shillings for a pony rail of turf. Tom McCarthy went on to be famed with the slan and was always proud of the quality and the quantity of his work. In the spring of 1948, he came to Stevie Stack's farm in Moyvane, and he stayed at Stevie Stack's for 9 years. Tom always said that he made the first set of jumps for the jockey and renowned trainer Tommy Stack when Tommy was a young lad. During this time, he met the lovely Bridie McCarthy, who was working as a domestic at Tom O'Connor's. They were married in 1950 and came to live at the McCarthy homestead in Kilbaha. He lived there with his wife Bridie and her mother Bridge. They had 3 sons, Denis, Joan and John. Now, not in that order. It should be Denis and John. And these 3 boys went on and they married, and they have 3 wives. Obviously they have their wives, and it's Joan, Majella and Jill. During these years he also worked with the Cunninghams in Kilbaha. He was a kind husband, a proud and loving father, and later of course grandfather and great-grandfather. From 1957 to 1964 he worked at Kennelly's in Kilbaha. He greatly enjoyed his time there, and in his months off, he recalled working with a pickaxe on the road for the council from Mary O'Connor's house in Kilbaha to Skeheny and Cross. He then went on to work with McKinnis in the store from 1964 until retirement in 1990. He worked in the yard, loading trailers, tidying the stores, drawing coal on his back, grinding and bagging corn, etc. At first, he would cycle from Kilbaha to work on an ordinary bike, and graduated then to a push bike with an engine, then to the Honda, and finally a car. But when McKinnis got a van in 1996, Tom really took off. He became very well known around North Kerry and West Limerick for doing the deliveries. He was a great friend of the McKinnis and is to this present day. Tom and Bridie were married for 52 years until she passed away in 2002. While Tom loved his life in Kilbaha, he maintained an equal love always for his parents and siblings. Himself and Bridie went to war each Monday night for decades to visit the top of the road and often took in the other houses of his siblings. Now, Tom had a great social life and would love to be out meeting people every night if he could, visiting houses and visiting public houses, and I said, and would always like a drink, and attending senior citizens' parties or days out. He loved playing cards, Irish music, singing and dancing, with a few drinks of course. In his final years, he began attending the Rambling House in Knocknacaragh on the first Thursday of every month. At this stage, he was very poorly mobile, but he was determined to keep going while he could. He was so well looked after and catered for by Aunt Hammond and her husband Willie, and everybody who helped out there. Now, Tom, he always kept a fabulous garden and was a great gardener. And his garden consists of vegetables and rows of trees, row after row of perfect ridges. Even while he was preparing for a hip replacement, and well into his 80s, he could be seen on his hands and knees tending to the garden. But he could never get over the deals that came when Eileen Little came to Ireland and Listowel, when you could buy a net of onions for 39 cents. And he thought of all the work that he had put in growing and saving his own onions. Well, that be it. His two grandsons, anyway, I must tell you, his two grandsons, Christopher and Edward, attended two different schools, and they both won an award, but in different years as well, for the best garden of the year at their schools. But they were using Tom's garden. So we know why they would it, because Tom was a fabulous gardener. Now, this is the part that I like best. Tom was an ardent Fianna Fáil member, was a member for many, many years. He was an ordinary member. He then went on to be a delegate, and then he went on and he became an honorary president for years and years here in Moyvane. But there used to be great crack and fun during the time of the elections in Moyvane, because Tom would be gone in the morning with Tom McAllister or Tommy Mac, and I saw him up the street. He would be gone out canvassing for Fianna Fáil, and I would be gone in the evening, gone for Fine Gael, so we would be meeting the same houses again. So you can imagine the fun we had in Kilbaha. Now, he was very fond of his four grandchildren, Christopher, Edward, Bridget and Eileen, and he had four lovely great-grandchildren, Clodagh, Caoimhe, Maria and Croi. Now, Tom was a real proud McCarthy, and he passed on the family traits of hard work and decency to his children. Tom enjoyed good health in his life. He rarely had a bother until he reached the age of 92. He refused to bend to old age. He lived a good Christian life, an honest life of hard work, of gratitude and kindness, and he loved to be of service to others. He was proud of his humble beginnings, devoted to his family, and good-humoured. He was never past remarkable about anyone. He took everybody as he found them, and he was never jealous of a living soul. Tom is survived by his brother Denis and his sister Mary, both living in England, and we remember them in our prayers. On behalf of all here, I would like to thank all who cared for Tom over the years, Dr. Dining and all the staff in Market Street, Listowel, and to the home helps who came to his house for many years and enjoyed many great mornings with him, and to all the staff of Beechwood. He has been a resident of Beechwood House for the past 3 years and has received the best of care. It was of great consolation to all of us to see the staff, from the cleaners, the carers, the nurses, the doctor, and the front desk, treat Grandad with the care and respect and dignity, displaying a genuine fondness for him. We'd like to thank them sincerely. We would like to thank all our neighbours and friends who inquired for him and who prayed for him, and for all the people who have sent stuff to the house over the last few days. We are extremely grateful. Farewell, Tom. You will be sadly missed.
Brothers Jack and Jimmy, his sisters Peggy, Annie and Noreen, and Tom's many friends who have passed away from this life. May they all be joyfully reunited in heaven. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us.
For all the sick, those at home and in hospital, that they may find strength in the power of the cross and find hope in their faith, especially Tom's fellow residents in Beechwood House. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us.
We thank you for God, for our great neighbours in Kilbaha and Noreen, that they may enjoy God's grace and blessings. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us.
Grant be with us today. May the Lord bless them and keep them safe. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us.
To all who cared for Tom in his old age, Dr. Dining, all the nursing staff in Market Street, all the home helps who came to Kilbaha, and all the staff of Beechwood House in particular, that the Lord may reward them for their dedication and kindness. Lord, hear us.
Lord, graciously hear us. sick at this time in the hospitals.